Kellyanne Conway is counselor to the President of the United States, and she finds herself at the White House almost every day. Kellyanne, first off, I guess the #1 story was something Democrats said was going to go away. There was an election ploy. The whole caravan coming to the border was an election ploy by the president to try to rally his base. What do they say now?
Well, of course, they've been disproven, and everything that was predicted by the president and Secretary Nielsen and Homeland Security and others has come true. In fact, there was a caravan. There are violent people in there. Secretary Nielsen last night released on social media an 8-point statement. I would commend everybody to go and pull it. It's chock full of information, and she makes very clear in there that she commends the Customs and Border Patrol, our DOD, and the president for going ahead and bolstering our security forces at the border. Why? Because there are violent elements in this caravan. The media, mainstream media, only wants you to see the children, the families. They're not telling you that most of the caravan are males traveling by themselves, that, of course, projectiles and rocks were thrown at our brave men and women at the border, and they use non-lethal force in response because they have a right to defend themselves and to make sure that others who are there are not harmed. And Secretary Nielsen also points out that about 90% of the people coming through are likely not eligible for asylum. The DHS processed 38,000 credible fears of asylum, credible fear claims just last year. And she also says that the violence and the surge was entirely predictable. This has nothing to do with the base. I mean, are you telling me that national security is a base issue? This is everybody's business. She also says, and I want to repeat here on behalf of the president, Congress must now do its job and act. The president has negotiated in good faith. He has been very clear for 3.5 years now that border security and our national sovereignty is an imperative. And if people care about these folks, they won't just go for the optics. They would focus on opportunity. You want to care, you just take a picture of these people and use them, or you want them to get the opportunity here. Get them to stand in line, come through one of the 26 ports of entry legally, and come into this country legally. The president has made it clear time and again, come legally.
Well, he has. But, you know, it was in the last year or so when it sounded like the president and Chuck Schumer had a deal. Essentially, the president was told by Chuck Schumer, okay, we're going to give you the money for your wall. You got to make a deal for the Dreamers with us. But the president said, you know, I want other stuff with it. Was that a miscalculation?
No.
Should he have settled for the wall for the Dreamers?
Well, how is it a miscalculation, Steve, respectfully, if the quote, other things the president is looking for is an end to chain migration, an end to this visa lottery system? He put forth a 70-point plan to Congress October of 2017. That's 13 months ago. Then it got boiled down to those 4 points. The president, for the whole world to see in the cabinet room last January, almost 1 year ago, held forth for an hour talking about making a deal on the Dreamers. Look, Congress has not negotiated in good faith for many years on immigration. They failed to do their job, and I think it's a large part of how the president got elected and why this continues to be a big issue. But look,
Kellyanne,
we're not. These people
would you
were
say
also,
that would the president reach out, being that we're at a crisis point now at the border, and I think both sides realize something's got to be done? Will he reach out to leadership and say, come to the Oval Office, Democrats, Republicans, and let's get something done in the lame duck session?
They're always welcome, the lame duck session, to reach out, and you know that. And the president works 365 days a year. Congress isn't always here, but they're welcome to come in the lame duck session. But he's made very clear where he stands on this. Because courts are misinterpreting our immigration laws, you now have a few judges making immigration law for the entire country. We can't have this. This is a legislative duty. Also, I just want to make clear that the people who are really harming these folks who think they can come over the border are the coyotes and others who took money from these people, promising them things that simply are just not true. You can't break the law. You've got to come here legally. We are the most generous nation to immigrants in history. We have allowed about 33 million people to emigrate legally.
Kellyanne, I want to pivot to Russia because obviously tensions have been escalating between Russia and Ukraine. You saw a strong statement come out from Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo as well. What can we expect from the president on this?
Well, the president is keeping a close watch on what is happening there, and I think it was incredibly important that the UN called this emergency meeting yesterday with Ambassador Haley, and obviously Secretary Pompeo has weighed in as well. This president has shown his willingness to sanction Russian officials when necessary. He has done that. He's expelled some from this country. He's sanctioned others. He has pushed back on Putin not once but twice when Assad was gassing his own people, for example. And so America First means exactly that. It's an ongoing situation. It's a fresh and unfolding situation, so he will continue to monitor it.
Is he considering not calling off the meeting with Vladimir Putin, or has he changed the agenda if that meeting goes forward, putting this first?
Well, there will be a series of bilateral meetings at the G20, and I'll allow the President as National Security Council to make those announcements. But obviously, Mr. Putin and President Trump will both be there, as will a number of other leaders.
All right. Meanwhile, the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady has a 297-page tax and IRS package ready to be talked about tomorrow and perhaps voted on by the lame duck House later on this week. Then it's going to go to the Senate. It does need 60 votes. Do you think there's bipartisan support to do something about fixing our tax situation?
Well, there ought to be. If I were one of those Democrats who lost my Senate reelection bids and I'm in the lame duck, the one thing I should learn from my loss is that voting against the tax cut was probably very costly because it has literally produced wealth and job security, job mobility, and opportunity for the men and women in all of those states. North Dakota, Missouri, Indiana, Florida, for example, they all voted against Judge Kavanaugh, and that hurt them too. But voting against the tax cut was really a breach of faith with their constituents a year ago. So perhaps they would do the right thing on their way out and try to protect and create that wealth. And the reason that Chairman Brady and the President are for increased tax cuts for the middle class and simplifying the process by the way that you file those taxes is because it's worked. All the skeptics 1 year ago, if I stood here a year ago on other channels, all the skeptics and naysayers said it can't pass, and if it does, it would only be a big boon for corporate America, for the wealthy. That is just not true. Over 8 million Americans and counting have received bonuses and raises. The president has created trillions of dollars of wealth since his election, and the tax cuts and the deregulation and the energy boom all put together has really created a historic economy and these optimism and confidence rates as well.
All right. Busy day at the White House. Kellyanne Conway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.